Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So there's a lot of people saying I told you so after recent news about world boxing requiring Imane Khelif to undergo a gender test before being permitted to compete. Now remember, when it came to the time around the Olympics, there was a lot of gaslighting. There was a dismissal of the gender tests that were performed by the IBA. They confirmed that Khelif was male and banned Khelif and yu-ting from competing at the World Championships. They were given 2 blood tests that came out showing that these boxers had XY chromosomes. But of course, the results of those tests were put down to Russian disinformation. They were put down to Russia trying to, collude with the IBA to prevent Taiwan or Algeria winning a gold medal, something to that effect. And people ran with it.
There's been some issues in terms of some of these reports being influenced, especially with the Olympic committees, by Russia. And there's been a lot of pushback in that Russian Federation, angry that they have, especially in the Olympic community, have been ostracized and pushed out for several reasons, violating the rules when it comes to steroids and pumping their athletes with an advantage. They're acting out by funding sort of rogue organizations that appear to be totally universally accepted with these reports that are flawed.
What is the evidence that Russia has influenced this United Nations report?
I didn't say so. I think we have to take everything into consideration.
You mentioned their influence supposedly on the Olympic Committee, but that begs the question, why did the Olympics allow 2 supposedly intersex athletes to compete at this past Summer Olympics, even when Russia was complaining about it? That would suggest the opposite of Russian influence. And it's not like the United Nations is exactly like a far-right group, right? It's easy for athletes, by the way, to say that they support transgender participation when they've never had to actually compete against a biological male. Megan Rapinoe comes to mind as an example of that category.
Then we had people insisting that Imane was a woman with high testosterone. How dare you judge this person? How dare you say that this person isn't a woman? Imane was born a woman. yu-ting was born a woman. We had all of that going on. But it was obvious to the rest of us that Imane had a similar condition to Caster Semenya. And it has been confirmed that Imane was born with disorders of sex development and has a condition that only affects males. Caster Semenya, I remember many of us were saying the same thing. Even I was saying the same thing about Caster Semenya years ago, believing that this person was a woman with high testosterone and, it's not Caster's fault if the testosterone is naturally occurring. Why should this person be punished? Many of us bought into that. And it's the exact same thing with Imane Khelif. However, with Caster Semenya, after a court case was filed by Caster, it was revealed that Caster Semenya is in fact male and has that 5 reductase condition. Condition, again, that only affects males.
So I have endometriosis. I have higher testosterone. I'm a woman.
Okay.
Does that mean that I have an advantage over sports because I have endometriosis?
And let's just get one thing straight. Women with high testosterone are not women with high testosterone. They are women who have testosterone within the higher range for women. They don't have testosterone that is comparable to men. That is not a thing. So whenever we're talking about women with high testosterone, we are actually talking about males who have DSD. These are the males that end up going into women's sports. It has happened time and time again. And the IOC got rid of their gender testing in the 90s. So this has been going on for decades.
World Boxing has banned Olympic gold medalist Imane Khelif from the sport, advising the Algerian Boxing Federation that Khelif would have to undergo a mandatory sex test if Khelif wants to compete in future boxing competitions. The international boxing body saying that it has introduced the measure following the furore surrounding Khelif winning gold at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
The IOC is actually being put to shame after what has happened with world boxing acknowledging this person's biological sex. The IOC look very bad right now. And before the 2028 Olympics, they really need to correct what they allowed in 2024. They need to bring back the gender testing too, because they have allowed male athletes to slip through the net for decades. And they knew exactly what they were doing. They got rid of the tests that would have prevented it. It's very easy to prove you're a woman. Notice that all the threats of lawsuits coming from Imane Khelif, nothing has materialized. Because in order to, pursue a lawsuit, there's going to be some things that are required of you. You're going to have to provide proof that you've been slandered. So it's quite obvious why we haven't seen any lawsuits filed. It's quite obvious why we haven't seen or heard of Imane doing a cheek swab. So Imane Khelif's sex test results from the 2023 World Championships have been published for the first time, with a medical report appearing to indicate that the boxer is biologically male. And this is what the IBA were able to find. But they kept it hidden because Imane Khelif, and I believe yu-ting as well, threatened legal action for divulging, medical reports. So they kept it hidden, but they said that the results, proved that they are not eligible to compete. That's all they said. And that wasn't good enough for people. But at the same time, they weren't going to publish medical information either. The document at the heart of this extraordinary saga was released into the public domain. It states that chromosome analysis reveals male karyotype. A karyotype refers to an individual's complete set of chromosomes, which in Khelif's case has been reported by the International Boxing Association as being XY, the male pattern. The test results carry the letterhead of Dr. Lal Path Labs in New Delhi, accredited by the American College of Pathologists and certified by the Swiss-based International Organization for Standardization. This directly challenges the account of the IOC spokesman, Mark Adams, who in a tense news conference at the Paris Olympics described the results as ad hoc and not legitimate. And he also said that, Khelif and yu-ting have identification that proves they're women. They have birth certificates, passports that prove they are women. And that was the end of it. So they were warned by the IBA that these two boxers are male, that they have XY chromosomes, and they allowed them to compete in women's boxing anyway, and stood by and justified it. And when you spoke to people about this, they thought it was appalling that you agreed that these boxers should be banned. Especially in the UK, I remember when I went home and speaking to family members, they were like, what are you talking about? These are women. And I'm like, they failed the tests. They failed the gender tests. They just couldn't understand why people like me were absolutely appalled that these two boxers were allowed to compete in women's boxing, were allowed to punch women in the face. The Italian boxer, Angela, it really upsets me that she ended up apologizing. Apologizing for what? She should never have had to compete against a male athlete. And people need to apologize to Angela. The IOC needs to apologize to Angela. It wasn't because she was losing. Was it like Jamil Hill saying, she got beat and she realized that she couldn't fight this person, so she bailed out. You had these women in the ring with male boxers. And was it any surprise that they went on to win the gold medals? No, because they are male boxers. In a woman's competition, you're either male or female, even with disorders of sex development. So yeah, the gaslighting can stop now. The name calling can stop. The accusations can stop because it's confirmed 100%. And the IOC are looking very bad at the moment because they allowed this and they knew. They knew. Now, Khelif is not going to be able to compete here in the US. So Nicola Adams, who is the first British woman to win an Olympic boxing title, said that she can sleep well tonight. She received backlash for saying the following. She said, people not born as biological women should not be able to compete in women's sports. When she said this, she was accused of being ignorant, spreading misinformation. But now, with the release of chromosome analysis from an Indian laboratory revealing that Khelif has male karyotype, it turns out Adams was right all along, as was J.K. Rowling, as was Sharon Davies, as was you, me, all the people who spoke out against this. Male athletes should not be competing in women's boxing. We should never have to say that. But it's required in this day and age because people have lost their minds. The Khelif scandal should be ranked among the worst in Olympic history, a saga where the sport's most powerful administrators became so seduced by gender ideology, so enthralled to the lie that womanhood was reducible to some frivolous passport detail, that they were prepared to put the very lives of female boxers in peril. A woman could, as a direct consequence of a profoundly flawed official policy, have died in that Paris ring. Remember, Khelif's own coach came out and said that there were problems with the chromosomes. Khelif's own coach admitted it. We had women boxers testifying, women who had trained with Khelif, but people didn't care. People wanted a male boxer to compete against women for what I do not know. Even Khelif showed offense at being classed as transgender. Khelif is not transgender. We know Khelif has DSD. But when, this story first broke, it was reported as two transgender boxers competing at the Paris Olympics. And Khelif himself was offended at that association, saying it was against my culture, against my religion. And even that didn't bother the trans activists. Because to them, Khelif represents what they want. Men punching women in the face and risking the lives of women. That's what they want, for whatever reason. So this is Oliver Brown of The Telegraph. Very well said there. And it's no surprise that the IOC has beef with the IBA. Thomas Bach, the president of the IOC, who was gaslighting us at the time, he has issues with Imane Khelif, the Russian chief of the International Boxing Association. And I guess that got in the way of protecting women, protecting female athletes. When the IBA called a press conference in the wake of Khelif's 42nd battering of Angela Carini, it was blocked by legal threats from revealing the boxer's test findings, as it intended. As such, the occasion dissolved into a slanging match. So Oliver Brown of The Telegraph, he reached out to the IOC asking them, are they going to apologise to the female athletes who were denied medals because a male athlete was allowed to punch women in the face. And they said the following: the IOC has always made it clear that eligibility criteria are the responsibility of the respective international federation. The factors that matter to performance are unique to each sport, discipline and/or event. We await the full details on how sex testing will be implemented in a safe, fair, and legally enforceable way. All the IOC seem to be doing is passing the buck. Angela Carini, when she was fighting this person, she said that she has never been punched that hard in her life. And this is a boxer at the Olympics. Difference is, she wasn't fighting a female athlete, a fellow female athlete. She was fighting a man. Something that the IOC should be utterly ashamed to have allowed knowingly in the first place. And they should be shamed and they should try and right this wrong. Let's see. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves and God willing, I will see you in the next video.